We are talking LA Kings with the voice of the Kings, Nick Nickson, on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also co-host of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly recap show of the night in the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Well, the regular season is winding down, and the LA Kings will be in the playoffs for a fourth straight season. And calling all the action will, of course, be the longtime voice of the LA Kings, Nick Nickson, a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, in his 44th and final season calling Kings games. Nick, always an honor to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Eddie. And it's an exciting time again for the Kings and Kings fans. 4 straight trips to the playoffs. And maybe this will be the year the Kings figure out the winning formula, because certainly looks like it's going to be LA and Edmonton once again.
Well, we certainly hope so, and I'll definitely ask you a little bit about that. But I do want to take you back recently to April the 1st, where you were honored at the Kings game before the Winnipeg Jets. And I know it wasn't the first time you've been honored, but you've been on the other side of those a little bit more than you have been on that side of it, emceeing a lot of those events and special moments. What was that night like for you, Nick?
Well, it went very quickly. And I'm just thankful that it was not an April Fool's joke played on me. It was great because Patrick O'Neill was me, really. You mentioned that I'm usually the one that hosts those on-ice presentations, have been for a number of years now. When players reach milestones, their jersey numbers are retired, they reach their 1,000th game, and so forth. And Patrick did a great job. Very fortunate. There were people that I wanted to be there that had been close to me and supportive of me in my career. And really, they all were able to make it. We had a party suite provided to my guests. I had relatives from back east come out here to see that game and other games. Really, the only one that couldn't make it was Brian Engblom, who I worked with for about 4 years in the early 90s, only because he's still working. He's doing color for Tampa Bay, and that particular night, they were in Ottawa, and you can't get any farther from LA in the NHL than Ottawa. But it was a great evening, and very appreciative of everything the Kings did for me.
I did want to ask you, you said Patrick O'Neill was emceeing. Your TV partner right now, Jim Fox, was on the ice. Your longtime radio partner and on-ice broadcaster, Darrell Evans, is on the ice. You're on the ice. Who's minding the store, and how close was the call for you to get back up there for the opening faceoff?
Well, it was a close call. Fortunately, being a TV game, the pregame host, many times it's Patrick. Many times on the road, it's Carlin Bathe. So if I remember correctly, it was Carlin Bathe and Patrick and Jarrett Stoll. And then after a couple of segments, Patrick went on the ice to host the ceremony. And I know when I've been the host, usually we're at the Zamboni entrance, which is a lot closer to the elevator to get up to the press box. And this particular night, where we exited, was on the opposite side of the building where the Kings come out to start the game. So when the ceremony was over, good thing they had 2 anthems because Winnipeg was in town. Myself and Jim took off. We got to the elevator, and usually they hold it, but they didn't. But okay, 10, 15 seconds later it comes. We get on the event level and say, UC, we got to go on the air. He says, the elevator operator says, I got to stop at Maine. I go, oh, no, you can't. Okay, stop at Maine. We get somebody else. We get to UC, Upper Concourse. Now I'm hearing the last verse of the Star Spangled Banner. Foxy takes off, goes to the booth. I'm hustling right behind him. I put on my headset, and the puck is dropped. And right then, Carlin stopped talking, and I started somewhat out of breath. So you could say the timing was impeccable, or you could say the timing was stretching it a bit. But we made it. We made it.
I had you on this show a couple of years ago, and you had indicated that you were going to be doing this for a couple more years, and literally you knew it was a couple more years. I had Jim Fox on to talk about you, and I asked him, how long are you going to keep doing this? And he would only say that he had a plan. And I had Daryl Evans on and asked him, and he seemed to indicate they were going to have to kick him out of the building for him to leave. I was wondering if you'd like to say anything about those two guys.
Well, and I said this on my speech last week. I've been so fortunate because the people I've worked in the broadcast booth have been so talented, some of the best in the business over the years. I started with Bob Miller, of course. He and I worked together for 9 years. And back in those days, the majority of the games we did were just on radio. Very few were on TV, and that changed in the late 80s when Wayne Gretzky came to Los Angeles and the advent of cable sports networks coming on. Brian Engblom still does the games. Mike Allison, a former player, retired, lives up in Fort Francis, Ontario, just above International Falls, Minnesota. We had Cammy Granato for a year, and I've been with Daryl for 26 years. So my partner in the booth the longest has obviously been Daryl Evans. But, we all learn from each other, and having the former players do it, like Brian and Mike, Cammy, and Daryl, you can, the viewer, the listener can learn so much, but so can I. So can, being right there. And sometimes I just, okay, that's a good read. Yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah, talented people. And it's interesting, Eddie, because my first year was 81, 82. And that was Jim and Daryl's second year as pro players in the Kings organization. So when you look back on my time in Los Angeles, I've known those two guys, of course, Bob, of course, who retired 8 years ago, but I've known those three, but Jim and Daryl in particular, since I've been in Los Angeles, because they played and then they transitioned to the broadcast booth after their playing career. So not only are they great people to work with, but they're two of my closest friends.
We saw a great moment in hockey history the other day. Alexander Ovechkin breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record, 895 goals. Amazing, I'm sure. Like me, I don't know if a lot of people never thought that record would be broken, but I assume you were on the call for Gretzky's record and the points record as well. And I was wondering, what do you remember about those calls or any other kind of milestone calls you got to be a part of?
Yeah, it was Gretzky's, if I remember correctly, his first season with the Kings. And I was still doing color with Bob, and it was still a simulcast back then. And he broke the points record in Edmonton, of all places. So, yeah, I was there. I witnessed that. And then in March of 94, when Gretzky is a King, I remember the game before that. I think we were in San Jose, and he got 2 goals, and all of a sudden he's tied with Howe. And we're going, okay, Kings fans, the next game is at home. It's with Vancouver. I think it's a Thursday night, if I remember correctly. And he goes out and Robitaille McSorley to Gretzky, and there's the new goal-scoring record. And I think, if I remember, it was Howe broke Richard's record in 61. Gretzky breaks Howe's record in 94. So that's 33 years. And Ovechkin breaks Gretzky's record, which was a span of 31 years. So I guess that, Eddie, I've been around a while if I've seen all that kind of stuff. Well, but, it's interesting. I had the game on. I knew it was on TNT Sunday morning here on the West Coast. Started at 9:30. So I turned it on, and he didn't score in the first period. Sat down. I had some breakfast. I got up. I went right to the couch, and I yelled upstairs to my wife, "He just did it." So my timing there was pretty good. I got to see it just exactly as it happened. So, Yeah, 895. To put it in perspective, and other people have done this. Just think of it. 45 goals for 20 seasons. That's what you have to average. And we know how difficult it is to score in this league. It's basically a 3-2 league. That's the average. If you're a good team, you're going to average over 3. If you're not, you're going to average under 3. So to score that many and be that consistent and have the health he's had in his career, that just makes it even more impressive. But I think what I want to see the number 900, because that to me, that's just unfathomable. Like 15, 20, 40 years ago, 900 NHL goals. And then, he's had some great playoff success. Throw in the playoff goals and almost 1,000. So, yeah, good for Alex. He's one player. I've said this over the years, Eddie, I would pay money to see. And I've seen a lot of hockey games. I've seen over 4,000. But just the power in his game with his shot. And we mentioned this the other night on the air. Since they started tracking hits in the NHL, he's third all time. How many goal scorers play that physical? I mean, Dustin Brown, certainly not in the class of Ovechkin as a goal scorer, but Brownie was always up there in hits. Cal Clutterbuck was a role player, pretty much a fourth line guy. He's up there in hits. Luke Schenn still playing, defenseman. He's in the top 5 in all-time hits. So when you combine the powerful shot, the physicality, and all of that, and he's able to stay healthy to get to a record like this, it's really unbelievable.
It really is. We saw an unbelievable moment the other night. I want to get your thoughts on. We'll do that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster, as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to bearmattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
We are continuing with LA Kings voice Nick Nickson. Nick, you've been calling games since 1981, and you've seen a lot of special moments, as we talked about. I did want to ask you about that Quinton Byfield goal the other day against Seattle, the one-handed deflection and then the one-handed shot into the net. One of the most unique goals I've ever seen. I was wondering if you've ever seen anything like that before.
I don't think so. And I think Jim Fox mentioned it on the air. I don't think he's ever seen that. I mean, sure, you see a lot of deflections, but to have the presence of mind to get the puck with the same hand that he tipped the puck with one hand on the stick and get the puck into the net after that, pretty sweet play. And I mentioned at the time, because it was last year, that same end of the ice where he had that great play where he went around a guy, fell to a knee, got up, and he's on his knees and he shoots. I mean, he's had two of the most spectacular goals, not only in the last 2 years for the Kings, but in the NHL. And if you go back even farther, he might have two of the best goals that we've seen in, 40 years since I've been covering the Kings. So, and he's only 22. So what's he going to do next? I mean, score on his back?
Well, we saw Ovechkin do that once.
How about the lacrosse move, Eddie? Let's see the lacrosse. I don't know if he's capable of doing it. I don't know if he ever played lacrosse, but boy, he's for a big guy, 6'5", when he fills out, still growing a little bit, he'll be 225, 230, but the skill level he has, it just makes it fun to watch.
For sure. And he's got a flair for the dramatic with some overtime game winners as well, doesn't he? So
3 this year. Yeah.
Yeah. You've seen a lot of young, talented players. Do you feel pretty optimistic that he can turn into that at some point?
Yeah. I mean, last year he played left wing with Kopitar and Kempe. And, with the PL Dubois scenario not working out last year and moving on to Washington for Darcy Kemper, the Kings kind of knew that Byfield had to be moved into the middle. I mean, that's his future, and that's where the Kings are hoping he succeeds Andrei Kopitar as the number one center. He's getting close to doing it right now because he's put together 2 pretty good back-to-back seasons, 20 goals. He had over 50 points last year. He'll probably finish this year with about the same numbers. So he's trending in the right direction, getting bigger, stronger. And I think he's ready. He's very close to assuming the mantle, the role of number one center, because, Ajay, next year will be his 20th season. It's the final year of his contract. I don't know if we'll play beyond that, but certainly, and Philip Deneau's not getting any younger either. And Philip is more of he's slotted in as a third line guy. He's very good defensively, kills penalties. That's been his MO for most of his career. So if you look at the Kings right now and project down the road, Quinton Byfield's got to be number one in the next year or two.
I wanted to ask you about the newest LA King. I know there weren't a lot of big headlines when the Kings went out and got Andrei Kuzmenko. And frankly, I wasn't really all that optimistic that he was going to add a lot. And he's been fun to watch. He's contributed. It seems to have brought just a different element to the lineup. I was wondering, what have you thought about Andrei Kuzmenko so far?
Yeah, he's been good. There's no question about it. And I didn't really know too much about his overall game. Now, that being said, 2 years ago, his first in the NHL, he's an older pro, came over from the European leagues. He scored 39 goals in Vancouver, and he played quite a bit with Elias Pettersson, who's a pretty gifted centerman. And then he got moved to Calgary last year, then to Philadelphia, and then we pick him up at the deadline. So I didn't know what his game really was all about. But after about 5 or 6 games playing with Kopitar and Kempe, he's been with those 2 veterans every game with the Kings. He kind of settled in. The power play got clicking again. He's been out there in the number 1 power play unit. And for the most part, the power play has been going through Kuzmenko because he's so good in tight spaces with the puck. He's got good vision. And lately, we're seeing a pretty good shot from him. He scored some really nice goals the last couple of weeks. So if this is what we're going to see going forward, great pickup by General Manager Rob Blake, because as we all know, everybody that's followed the Kings, the power play has been an issue this year. It's been better with Kuzmenko, and now it has to translate. It has to be good in the playoffs, especially if you're going to play Edmonton.
You've seen a lot of Kings goaltenders over the years, some of the best in Rogie Vachon and Jonathan Quick. Darcy Kemper, obviously, for one season, has had an amazing year as a Kings goaltender. I thought he'd be good. I didn't think he'd be quite this good, but he's had an amazing year for the Kings.
Yeah, he's having the best year of his career. His goals against is now lower than Connor Hellebuck, and everybody thinks that Hellebuck with Winnipeg is the leading candidate for the Vezina Trophy. But boy, Kemper's numbers are right there now. And remember, he missed 2 stretches earlier this season on the IR, or else he would have had probably 8 or 10 more starts, 6, 8 more wins, and he'd be among the league leaders in that category. But his goals against, his save percentage, 5 shutouts this year, which ties a career high for him. Right now, and as we speak, Eddie, the Kings have 5 games left. He would get my vote for the team MVP, only because this is a team that is average when it comes to scoring goals. And I'll make the comparison with Hellebuck and Winnipeg. Hellebuck is playing on a team that's has been at or near the top offensively all season long. But the Kings are in the middle. They average under 3 goals a game. And you look at the stretch Kemper has been in right now, a franchise record, I think it's 14 straight starts where he's allowed 2 goals or fewer. Pretty remarkable. Jonathan Quick never did it. Rogie Vachon never did it. Kelly Rudy never did it. So every night he seems to give the Kings a chance to win the game. And it's only been a handful of starts that have not been good for Darcy Kemper, but it's been a while since he's had kind of a so-so average start, because his game has been well above average all season long.
As has the Kings game on home ice all season long. As a matter of fact, no Kings team has ever won more home games than this team, 29 and hopefully counting. Your thoughts on just how special this team has been at home this season?
Yeah, well, the goaltending, I mentioned Riddick, Kemper, getting hurt earlier in the year. Riddick came in and played a stretch of games, and he was good. He was good early in games, as Kemper has been. And it seems like the two of them, when they're on home ice, they're just ramped up to give a grade A performance. And you're right. Yeah, 29 wins is a franchise record. It's the number 1 home record in the NHL. And you just hope it carries over, because the Kings in the playoffs have not been a good home team the last 3 years. I looked in the last 3 series with Edmonton, they're only 2-6 on home ice. So hopefully this is the year where they understand what home ice can mean. They're doing something about it. And if they get home ice in that first round against Edmonton, which they have not had the last 3 years, it could be a deal breaker. It could be the difference between beating Edmonton, advancing, and bowing out again in the first round.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Kings Oilers Part 4 coming up with Nick Nickson here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether you're snacking at your desk or on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost. If you love cracking open the shell, then you'll get that satisfying crunch. The in-shell options are a classic favorite. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein, providing all 9 essential amino acids, whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids. Wonderful Pistachios is a snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, we're wrapping it up with Kings legendary broadcaster Nick Nickson, who I saw in an LA Times article had called over 3,800 games in his career. And hopefully, like we said, there's about, 20 to 30 more coming up this season. I did ask some folks on social media if they wanted to ask any questions. I had a couple of quick ones for you, Nick.
Yep.
Mikey Alexander, who's one of the in-arena hosts at the Kings games, wanted me to ask you, do you remember your very first LA Kings broadcast?
I do. November 18th, 1981 against the Detroit Red Wings. And Marcel Dion was starring for the Kings back in that era. Of course, he broke in with Detroit and then left, joined the Kings. Scored 4 goals in my first game. The Kings won the game 7 or 8-1. But yeah, November 18th, 1981 was my first game with the Kings in the NHL. I had been in the American League doing games for 6 seasons. The Rochester Americans first, and then the New Haven Nighthawks. And my second to last season in New Haven, the Nighthawks changed their NHL affiliate from the New York Rangers to the LA Kings. So with that transfer of affiliation, that's how I got connected with LA, and that's how I wound up coming to the Kings.
You mentioned the Rangers. That clicked a light bulb in my head. Sam Rosen, the longtime one of the voices of the New York Rangers, is also in his last season as well. And I know both of you guys have gotten some nice honors on the road from teams around the league. I was wondering, do they give you a heads up that they're going to do that, or do they just kind of do it? And your thoughts on some of those road honors?
Yeah, it's been very nice. A lot of the teams have recognized me during the TV timeouts in the building. Broadcasters during their telecast have mentioned it on the air. Our first game this year, Eddie, was in Buffalo, and I'm from upstate New York, from Rochester. And the guys in Buffalo, Dan and Rob Ray, knew it was going to be my last season. And they knew I grew up in that area, and they mentioned it my very first game this season. And I had a number of buddies in Rochester where they get the Sabres games regularly. They're Sabres fans. I heard that. I heard them. They talked about it. They said some nice things. So that kind of kicked it off. Anaheim did a nice tribute for me my last game there, which was back in November. San Jose, Dan Rusanowski and the gang there, Drew Remenda, Randy Hahn, they presented me with a nice bottle of wine with my name inscribed on the bottle. So I don't know if I'm supposed to open it and drink it, or if I do, I'll keep the bottle, obviously. But yeah, been some nice moments around the league. And as a matter of fact, when Sam and the Rangers were here recently, they had a couple of off days in Los Angeles, and the Rangers held a surprise party for Sam. And it was in Brentwood, and they invited Bob Miller and myself to attend it. They flew in Sam's wife, his two boys.
Oh, wow.
The Rangers personnel that were traveling were there, and it was very nice. He was surprised. So Joe Micheletti, who's been doing the games with Sam for a number of years, pulled it off. So, yeah, that was nice. And it was nice to be part of it for Sam because, 44 years for me, and Sam is wrapping up his career with the 40 with the New York Rangers.
This is from Scott in Simi Valley. He wanted me to ask you about your Tiger Williams interviews, and was he your favorite player to interview?
It was fun because you never knew what Tiger was going to do or say. And I remember we probably were playing Edmonton in the 80s when the Oilers had those great teams, Gretzky, Messier, Coffey, and Anderson, and on and on and on, Yari Curry. And I think we allowed 25 shots at home to Edmonton. It was like 25-8. The shots were Edmonton, yet it was only 1-0 Oilers. So we had Tiger on live after the first intermission. And I said, Tiger, geez, what are your thoughts about that first period? You're only down 1-0. You were outshot 25-8. And he goes, well, Mr. Nixon, they had 25 shots, but 15 of them were wimp ass. So with Tiger, you never knew. But colorful, we need more colorful players like that in our game. Yeah. I mean, how many guys are known by their nickname Tiger, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Very few. And he was a good player. He could score. He was tough. He was a team guy. And it was a lot of fun to be around him the 2 or 3 years he was in LA.
Nick, I'll get you out of here on this. Kings Oilers round 4 coming up. It looks like the Kings have obviously made some off-season changes and some changes with the team kind of specifically geared towards getting by the Oilers. Does it feel a little different for you when we talked about home ice and things like that? Are you a little more optimistic about what we could see this time around?
I think it is. The new people that Rob Blake brought in the offseason have been great additions. We talked about Darcy Kemper. Kings need to get good goaltending in the playoffs. They haven't had it. They've had 3 different goaltenders start the playoffs the previous 3 years. Now it'll be 4 and 4 years with Kemper. So if he can just carry over what he's been doing, that'll be a plus. Warren Fogle, ex-Oiler, career year, maybe one of the more consistent, if not the most consistent forwards for the Kings all season long. Joel Edmondson on the blue line. Steady, plus-minus leader among the defensemen for most of the season. He's big. He's got playoff experience. He won a cup in St. Louis. Tanner Jeannot, question mark, because he's been hurt. They now list him week to week, but he was fulfilling the role he was supposed to play. So all of those additions, bigger players, a goaltender who's got experience. He's won a cup, right? Darcy Kemper in Colorado. You put it all together and you hope that maybe that's part of the ingredient that makes the Kings a winning playoff team in a couple of weeks.
Certainly hope so. He is Nick Nickson, Hall of Famer, Kings legend. Nick, thank you for doing this. And I speak for all Kings fans when I say thank you for all of your hard work and dedication to bringing Kings games to us, whether it was on the radio or on TV. And all the best to you and your family, and enjoy your retirement.
Oh, thanks, Eddie. Always great to be on with you. And to all the Kings fans, thanks for all the kind words over the years. And I won't forget you. I hope you don't forget me. Thanks, Eddie.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick. We will definitely not forget you. That's Nick Nickson. Hope you guys enjoyed that. For you everydayers, those of you that listen to watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Friday night, Saturday morning, we will have a couple of different shows for you. We're going to have our Kings Ducks recap show, and we'll also have our Kings traditional Friday fan feedback show as well. You can comment about this show or anything else going on with the LA Kings. Looking forward to Kings Ducks coming up on Thursday. Nick Nickson will be on the call with Jim Fox and Daryl Evans and everybody else. Be watching that. And then we will have our recap show shortly after the conclusion of that game. If you want to send an email for the feedback show, lockedoneddie@gmail.com, the email address. Follow us on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.